snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hi guys! So I am here today to do a tag video. I was just tagged in the best loved books tag by Chelsea. It was an original tag that Chelsea made, so I'll put a link to her channel down below because I love her. She's so nice and lovely and we get on really well, and I think you guys will love her channel, so go and check her out. But she did a tag where she showed 5 of the most beat up or best loved books that she had in her family that she owned. So they had maybe cracked spines, or the front cover was ripped off, or the back cover was ripped off, or the dust jacket had rips and stuff, and she just spoke a little bit about why she loved each of those books and what they meant to her. So I'm going to do it today, but I couldn't narrow it down to 5, so I've got 10 because, yeah, 10. 10 of my best loved books, and I'm going to tell you guys why they are my best loved books. So let's get started. So the first one that I have, these are in no order by the way, but the first one that I have is my copy of The Eye of the World, which is book number 1 in the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan. As you guys know, if you follow my channel, I have been ongoing with the Wheel of Time series for a long time now, and I'm on the 13th book right now, so I'm very close to ending the series. But this is the copy that I read when I first began it, and when I got it, it was a bit beat up, but now it really is. I've had to sellotape the front cover because it started falling off, and the back cover as well, I've just noticed. This is also sellotaped on. The spine, as you guys can see, it's like hugely cracked. I don't mind about cracked spines, I'm not one of those people who likes to keep my books pristine, but the cover has got like folded over bits. All of my Wheel of Time copies are a little bit battered because they're mass market ones, and so they're supposed to get kind of damaged. And this one definitely has, but I love this and I'll never get rid of it because it's the edition that I read and it's the edition that I'm collecting them in, and I love the editions, and it's just, it shows that it's loved, and I do love this series, and I have been reading it for years and years now. I think maybe 3-4 years. It's gonna stick with me for a long time, and I just love this series, and it's a book I will always keep, and maybe one day I will pass it down. Who knows? The next one that I have to show you guys is The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. This is not one of my favourite books ever, although at the time I read it, which was a couple years back, or like way before the film was announced or anything, I really enjoyed it when I did read it. And I read this book and I told my mum and my sister that I really enjoyed it, and they just both were like, okay, and I tried to convince them to read it and neither of them would. And then when the film came out and there was this big buzz around it and everyone was like, oh my god, Hunger Games is so cool, then they decided that they wanted to read it, so this is the copy that I actually lent to my mum and my sister. And considering it's been through 3 of us reading it, it's done pretty well. There is like a crack down the spine and there's a few creases on the front cover, but other than that it's pretty good. I've lent this to them. This is one of the only books that I've ever reread, and I reread it because I read it aloud to my boyfriend, and so it has a lot of memories. Even though I don't think the story is the best one in the world, I do think it's a good dystopian YA story, and I had a lot of fun reading it, and I've reread it a few times and enjoyed it still, so it's a good little series. I'm sure many of you guys have already read it, but this is my copy of it. Next I have one that I couldn't show you guys the actual edition, but this is my edition. This is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone by J.K. Rowling, and I obviously grew up loving Harry Potter, as many people my age and many people on BookTube will say. The reason that I'm showing you this is not because I loved the book, because I didn't even read the books, I actually listened to the tapes. I'm showing you guys this because the other day I recently picked up a new edition, I'll put a picture of it, of Harry Potter, the hardbacks, the lovely illustrated new editions that I think are done by Kazukibushi, and they just are stunning. I picked that one up and I bought it for my little brother who's 8 years old, and we started reading Harry Potter together the other day, and we got over halfway through the first one straight away, and it took us hours and hours. We didn't have any electricity in the house because we had electricians coming around to sort things out, and they turned all the electricity off, so all we could do basically was read, and it was a perfect opportunity for just me and him to sit and read Harry Potter together and read it aloud, and that was only last weekend that we were doing that, and so it made me so happy to see him, who has never watched the films, never read the books, seeing the world of Harry Potter and enjoying it as much as I did when I first read them. And it's just heartwarming to see him, and he also was sitting next to me and we read a chapter aloud each, so he would read one and then I'd read one, and yeah, Harry Potter is sort of his entryway into fantasy, so fingers crossed that he will become a fantasy lover as well, and I think he will, judging from how much he's loving Harry Potter, and he said he's going to let me know how it is because he wants to keep on reading it, so I had to put in Harry Potter, even though this edition isn't the correct one. Harry Potter is a great one anyway, and it is one of the most loved books that I have and most loved series, so Harry Potter, definitely a winner. Next I have a book which is from my childhood, and this one is called Molly Moon's Incredible Book of Hypnotism by Georgia Bing. This one I have because I remember when I was on holiday one time, I can't remember where we were, it must have been somewhere in the UK I think, but we went on holiday with my dad and my sister and my dad's best friend and his two kids who are about the same age as us, and we all went on holiday and we were staying in these two cabins, so they had a cabin and we had a cabin, and we were sitting around each night and we'd chat and stuff, and then we'd go back, and because we were quite young, we must have been like, I must have been about 10 and my sister maybe 8, something like that. We took this book with us that we picked up at the airport, and my dad actually ended up reading this to us each night, and he read it every night of the holiday and we got through the whole book, and it was just a great time because my dad never really used to read me books, or at least I don't remember, so this is one of the only books that I remember him ever reading me, this and the Michael Lawrence books, but this one I definitely have vivid memories of that holiday and every night us coming back and reading it, and as you can see it's got creases all over it and the spine is broken, but I just really enjoyed this, and if you have kids, definitely a fun one, definitely some funny ideas in this, so really enjoyed that, and it's definitely one of my most beloved books for that reason. On the same theme of the Harry Potter, this one, Uglies by Scott Westerfeld, is one of the only books that I've ever been able to get my sister to sit still long enough so that I could read it aloud to her, and she's only 2 years younger than me, so she wasn't behind me in ability to read or anything, but she doesn't like reading very much, she just doesn't have the time for it, she says, and you know, that sort of thing. So one day I said to her, well, how about if I read this aloud to you? And that's a thing that we do, and I think this was maybe 5-6 years ago now, quite a long time, maybe even longer than that. I started reading this to her and we ended up reading it over the course of a week, I think, and we just read a bit each night, and I read the whole thing aloud to her, and then we also read the second one in the series, and so for that reason it will always be one of my favourites. Even though it's not a mind-blowingly good book, it's still really fun. I love it just for the emotional story that goes with it. So yeah, one of the only books I've ever been able to read fully with my sister. And then moving on to an even older book, this one really is probably one of my most beloved books ever because I read this with my grandma. I used to go over to my grandparents' house a lot when my mum was working, and we used to get dropped off there, me and my sister, to play after school or something like that whilst my mum was at work, and we used to stay around there, and every time we did, or every time that my mum was going out late and we actually slept over there, my grandma would always read this book to me or my sister, and we'd always pick it up wherever we'd left off. So we never got through the whole thing in one sitting, but we'd always pick it up wherever we got left off. And it's The Magic Faraway Tree by Enid Blyton. It's a great little fantasy story that I just adored. It's a really battered copy, but I love it because it's illustrated on the front and back. I don't know if it's illustrated inside. Oh yeah, it does have illustrations inside. There's just a few illustrations inside as well. Yeah, this is the copy that she always read to us, and it's all creased, it's all battered, but I love it and I will always keep it, and I will read this to my kids when I have them because I loved it. I love this book, and it was just such a big part of my childhood, reading this with my grandparents and just adoring it. So yeah, that one is one I love. Now moving on to some of the bigger ones. This one is a massive one. It is Read Me a Story Please, 50 Read Aloud Stories, chosen by Wendy Cooling. And I loved this book, so did my sister when we were both younger. It is quite beaten up, it's got like rips on the cover and battered, and it's a bit of a mess, let's be honest, it's a bit of a mess. But there is a lovely thing underneath that is not so much of a mess, but the dust jacket is a bit of a mess. Basically it is just a collection of different stories, and the thing we used to love was that my mum would always be like, oh no, we don't have time for a story, and this one, it has 2-minute tales, 5-minute tales and 10-minute tales, and so we could always say that we just wanted a 2-minute tale, and it only does take you 2 minutes to read it. And so there are loads of different stories in this that I just adore, that are so fun from my childhood. Also, it is illustrated. It's just a fantastic collection of kids' stories. So If you guys don't have a lot of time but you want to be able to read aloud to your kids, this is a fabulous one. Pick it up, it's fantastic. There are so many stories within this that I just remember loving. Oh dear. Whoops. That I remember absolutely adoring from when I was a kid. So this will always be special to me as well, and I will always keep this book for sure because it's fabulous. I think there's loads of different authors who contribute, but it's just a fantastic kids storybook. And then moving on to the final three, these ones are not really books, even though they are books. They're not really books that anyone else will have. These are just personal books to me that are just some of my favourite things that I will always treasure and keep forever. The first one is my baby diary, which is, obviously it's baby diary that you keep when you have a little baby, and you can write things like their first word and all of those sorts of things, and it's illustrated, but I don't really care about the book. It's more about like what my parents, mainly my mum, have written in it, because it's got like baby's first steps. Caitlin began crawling just before she was 10 months old. She had been able to take her weight for a long time before that, and my mum's just written all of these things in there, and it's, you know, it's one of those books that I will just forever treasure and cherish. She didn't fill out all of it. Maybe she got lazy after a little while, but there are some things that she did, especially like the first few months she did fill out quite religiously, and so I'll always keep it and I'll always treasure it. Baby first smiles. Caitlin first smiled at people at age 5 weeks. She began laughing and chuckling by 6 weeks, and she found her thumb to chew by 9 weeks and could suck it by 10. By 11 weeks she could pull herself forward from lying back in Mummy's arms and was trying to make sounds in conversation with people. By 8 weeks she still had the dark brown hair she was born with, but her eyes had changed from very dark blue to dark brown. So I just find it a little cute little thing. It's just a very personal thing to me. So yeah. And then in the same vein as that, I have these two books that are both massive and very heavy. They are photo albums, and they are photo albums of me when I was a little baby. So there's like photos of my scans and stuff in my mum's tummy, and then when I was first born, and my mum has annotated it and stuck in all the little bits and bobs and things like that, and so I will always treasure and keep this as well. It's just one of those things, isn't it, that like nothing could replace it, and if there was a fire or something I'd leave all my other books and I'd grab these because these are the things that I would treasure the most. So there's some pretty cute little pictures of me when I was a baby which just make me laugh, and then the second album is when I was a bit older, so I wasn't quite a baby anymore. I was a little girl, I guess. Why do I keep opening it on the bath pages? But there's just some of me and I just love them, so I will forever keep the photo albums as well. We do have some more that have like photos of me when my sister's born as well, so but these are the ones that just have me in, so I really love them, and I love looking through them and seeing whatever my mum has written about whatever event it was and so on. So photo albums and the baby diary are my most precious books, but there are some stories and things that have a big meaning in my heart, and those editions that I showed you guys are the ones that I read, or in the case of Harry Potter it's not, but all the others are, and I just will treasure all of them. So thank you very much to Chelsea for tagging me. I do not know who she tagged. I cannot remember because I think she tagged a whole list of people. I'm going to tag anyone who has red hair or likes the colour red best out of all the colours. You guys have to go and do it, and if you do, let me know, link me your videos, I'd love to see them, and also link them to Chelsea because I'm sure she would love to see them too. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know in the comments if you don't want to do a video. Let me know in the comments what your favourite books are, or the ones that are most treasured to you and will always be cherished in your house, and I will see you all again soon in another video. Bye! Me and you gonna have a little